Hey everybody! So I wanted to follow up with the August Cairn Box because there were a few foodie things that I wanted to kind of try out and let you guys know about. The first one is the Picky Bar. So when I had done my August video, it was the same flavor as July's video. And it turns out that that was a mistake. So Cairn Box actually sent me the correct one for August, which is fudge nuts. And I have to say that this is addictively good. Like when I say addictively good, it's addictively good. I definitely think that there's something different about this one. So it is really a brownie, a cacao, a bunga brownie, and it really is that, and it feels like that. Some of the things that make it stand out for me was actually the textures. So they would have sort of chunks of chocolate in it, so that when you bit down, here in Florida it's a little warm, so when you bit down, there'd be like these soft spots. But then there were also, what are they again? The crispy brown rice. So it'd be like these nice soft spots, but then this nice sort of crackly texture to it. And I really enjoyed that sort of variation in texture. I think it bumps up a normal brownie by a lot. And then on top of it, there's, protein and stuff. And I guess there's like good stuff for when you're on the trail. But just as a foodie, I really enjoyed this. So I'm actually looking. I probably would get it. I'm probably going to get this again. So I want to give you a heads up on that. And then I wanted to talk to you about the ground table. Because I said that I was going to cook with it and then let you know. So that's exactly what I did. I got three sort of blends. It was blend two, blend six, and then blend eight. On the back, it kind of told you, recommended sort of how it can be used. I haven't used eight because eight was supposedly for like Asian, and I don't really cook too much with Asian flavoring. So I did 2 and 6. So let's start with Spice Blend 2. It's the Spicy All-Purpose Blend. So here it says anything savory with spice kick. Try with popcorn, veggies, grilled cheese, roasted potatoes, chicken, and burgers. So since it said both veggies and grilled cheese, what I did was I made lunch with it. What I call my bastardized veggie grilled cheese. So I've done it before, although this time I was in a bit of a rush, so I kind of messed up just a little bit. But what I like to do is I take kale and just sort of, about this much kale, not a whole lot, but, this much kale. And I just dice it up very, very, very fine. And then what I do is I throw it onto the cast iron skillet with a little bit of olive oil, just a tinge of salt, and I like to use actually a lot of black pepper generally. And then I threw this onto the kale. And then I sauteed that within my cast iron skillet, got it really nice and kind of toasty. One of the reasons why I like working with kale in this capacity is that it's a very dry green. Like spinach has a lot of water to it. And so it'll make a grilled cheese sandwich very moist and soggy. But if you use kale, it gets nice and toasty and crispy, and it has this sort of smoky flavor to it. So, I got it where sort of the edges are browned a little bit. And then what I did was I just took, 2 pieces of whole grain, put 2 slices of Havarti, and then I slapped the cooked kale on top of the cheese, and then closed the sandwich. And then I put like a little cube of butter in the cast iron skillet, and then put my grilled cheese on it, grilling both sides so that the cheese gets gooey and goes into the kale with the spices. Again, that spice blend was on the kale and not on the cheese itself. I actually messed up again. I was like, sort of rushing to try to like make lunch for work, and I put a little too much butter and I cooked it a little bit too long. So when you see the picture of it, you're gonna be like, "That's really brown and not golden." It is what it is. It was actually still pretty good. Luckily, butter does make things better. So so it didn't actually mess up the flavor necessarily, but I definitely think with that, I'll next time I'll use a lot less butter, um, and toast it a little bit less. But I actually really liked the addition of this flavoring with that grilled cheese sandwich. I think that it took, a normal grilled cheese, even when I add kale, because I've done that before with like omelets where I'll add that toasted kale to it. But I did like the addition to the spice to it a lot. So that's a great sort of lunch idea for you. I'll splice in some video and pictures so that you can see that. Then for dinner, what I did, because I used number 6 for dinner, and number 6 says it's the skillet or grill roasting spice. And it says used for roasted veggies, marinades, hummus, also pairs well with steak, chicken, pork, and burger. So what I did was I took 2 beautiful pieces of steak and I put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then black pepper, and then I put this on it and let it sit for a bit. What I like to do is I actually like to get my steaks to come up to room temperature. So if I took it out of the fridge, I'll let it sit for about 30 minutes to bring it up to room temperature. What that does when you now go to grill it is that if it's super cold, then the outside gets dry while the inside still stays kind of cold and raw. So when you bring it up to room temperature, then you get a nice even heating, and it's actually a juicier steak because now you're not overcooking it on the outside just to bring up the temperature on the inside. So even when you're in a rush, if you can just let it sit for 30 minutes. So I made the grilled cheese while I was waiting for the steak to come up to temperature. And so then what I did was, put a little olive oil again in the cast iron skillet, and then slap the 2 steaks down, let them sear on each side. I like mine sort of generally medium rare, so I didn't let it sit too long, and then took it off, let it rest before cutting or anything. And then in the same cast iron skillet, didn't clean it, didn't do anything. So there's sort of little leftover spices of this. What I did was I took the squash, the yellow squash, and I had cut them up, and I cut them up with some onions, and put that in there with a little bit of salt and a lot of black pepper. Again, I like to use a lot of black pepper because I think it gives it a lot of flavor without needing a whole lot of salt. That's kind of one of my cheats, I guess. And so what I did was I browned it in that cast iron skillet. Again, all the steak juice was in there. Some of the seasoning left over from this was in there. Not a lot, but just a little bit. Got that nice and brown and roasted, and then put that aside. And then what I also did was I took some Brussels sprouts. I'm like, why am I blank? Brussels sprouts. And I cut them in half, and then sort of rubbed a little olive oil and again a little salt and black pepper, and then I put that in the oven and let that roast while I was sort of sauteing the squash and onions. That was roasting in the onion, so that at the end I was left with a beautiful dinner of steak with some squash and onions, and some roasted Brussels sprouts. It was fantastic. One of the things that I got to say about both of these is that I really kind of like that there's sort of a soft heat to them. I feel that definitely number 6 has a little bit more heat to it. One of the things I was surprised is that even though the heat was there, I didn't taste a very strong spice flavor. Maybe I didn't put enough on, or maybe, what happens sometimes is that the smaller ground of the spices are at the bottom, and then you're left with the top coarse ground spices. Maybe that happened, so that there wasn't really kind of good mixing. Maybe I didn't mix the packet well enough. I'll definitely try it again, and I gotta admit, it smells fantastic. And even when you stick your finger in there, you can taste like a soft heat. Again, not something that would burn your mouth, but more of like a warmth to the spices. So I'm definitely going to give this a second try because I like the warmth, but I want a little bit more of the spices, the flavor. But I really loved my sort of kale grilled cheese sandwich with number 2. I had put in the picture of my grilled cheese sandwich, this reusable sandwich bag. So some of you may not know that these exist. I actually found this at like Marshall's, right? You never know where you're gonna find like Marshall's, TG Maxx, or Home Goods. So I found a pack of 4. It was 2 big ones and then 2 sort of half-size littles. And so what's great is these are BPA free. They're reusable. So, they open up. There's still nice goo from my sandwich that I had in there, and then you just sort of, with a sponge, wash it out. But it's a great sort of alternative to constantly reusing like saran wrap, foil, or plastic baggies. So, I haven't bought plastic baggies in a really long time, other than for like actual storage purposes, to store, let's say, meat in the freezer or something like that. But when I'm like grabbing food to just kind of go on the road, I tend to use these. So look for those. The manufacturer for that is Rusby, but I'm sure other people make it. And this same manufacturer has like really cool designs on them. I actually got one of my friends, one of my male friends, one of these that it's like skulls on it, crossbones and skulls. So they do have really different designs. So I wanted to tell you about that since I used it for my lunch, and the picture with my overcooked grilled cheese sandwich shows the bag that I put it in. So if you got this Cairn box, share what you cooked with it, or if you maybe have some ideas for me of what I can do with these. I'm going to see if I can get this a little closer so you can see what it says about it. So if you have any great like recipes for me, please share them. I'll appreciate them. I'll see if I can get to at least a few of them and let you know how that works. So thanks for watching again. Hope to hear from you. Bye.